What does it mean to be a man today? You probably heard about the red pill, black pill, and several other pills, I'm guessing, in the last 5 or 10 years. And I guess the popularity of these concepts have increased due to social media. And I'm not going to bash on them. I think they all have their place in the world today, but because some people have changed their lives from them, it's impacted many, and for those people, I guess it can be like a well done thing, but I think it's just very extreme, and none of them really focus on the foundations of the qualities we should envelop as human beings. Beyond the manly man or womanly woman, and more towards virtue. I think virtue is the foundation that pretty much brings everyone and everything together. And whilst all these pills, they can be pretty predatory, especially because on social media now, a lot of the aspects to draw your emotions out very strongly will obviously do a lot better, because it makes you feel a certain kind of way, and sometimes the anger towards another gender and anger towards just can become very popular. But again, this isn't really holistic. It's not really the sort of root cause of what we really should be doing to help, I guess, co-create a better planet Earth where everyone matters. So, I'm not dismissing anyone's journey on any of these sort of pills and all that stuff, but more so understanding what is actually holding everything together. And so let's start off with the red pill, right? So this is more so about awareness, at least from my understanding of it. I'm not a master of what it is exactly, but from my understanding, it's about waking up, kind of seeing reality for what it actually is, rather than what you've been told. And sometimes there's real value in that, because when you start questioning the narratives that you've been fed in your whole life, you start to see through manipulation, you start to see patterns in behavior that others miss, and this can be really powerful. It can be really useful, especially when navigating the social climate of humanity. And sometimes that can protect you and give you clarity that you didn't have before. But the issue with that is that awareness without wisdom can become very cynical in its own nature, because you're going to see the world as very problematic, and you're not really going to be brainstorming solutions. And so from that, you develop cynicism, you develop despair, and then your entire identity becomes about what's wrong, what's broken, how the world is flawed, and how everyone else is the problem but yourself. And so from this point, you're not really building anything, you're just reacting, you're just pointing, and pointing at problems doesn't really solve them. It's a tool, but it's never the kind of correct answer. And then you've got a black pill. Again, this is from my understanding. So it's anger towards yourself. And sometimes anger can be used very wisely. Again, so in this case, it can motivate you, it can push you when nothing else will. And sometimes it can fuel incredible transformations. You got some people that are looking completely different straight after doing all of these really extreme routines, because they're sort of angry at themselves. They're not really satisfied with themselves. And again, this kind of concept is like what seems to be proving people wrong, and that isn't very authentic. At least to me, it's not. So sometimes anger as a foundation is never really concrete. It's very volatile, it's reactive, and it's very up and down. And then when your motivation over some time comes from anger and frustration and proving someone wrong, what happens when that anger fades? What happens when you've proven your point? And then what even happens when the people you are trying to prove don't really care? And sometimes anger can be really good at getting started with anything in life, like that you can chase your goals through anger and spite and become a better person out of it, but you have to always understand that it's never going to sustain you. It will never build something that is lasting. And if you stay there for too long, you're going to find yourself trapped in a cycle of needing new things to be angry about, because that's your fuel source now. So take it with caution. Now, on to the next one. I believe it's called the blue pill. So this is more of like kind of hope core, seeing good in the world, believing that things can get better, and it's a great world out there. And to be honest, I feel like I personally have this scope of mind, but one issue I personally notice is that hope without reality becomes very delusional. There's a lot of suffering in the world, and sometimes being hopeful isn't gonna just fix that. Optimism without wisdom becomes very naive. And so when you're so focused on seeing the good and ignoring the real problems, and you're so committed to positivity that you can't even acknowledge the pain, it's kind of avoidant. You're hiding the problems that actually exist, and it just delays them, whether that's in your personal life or around the world. And sometimes you just need a reality check, and that's where the other pills come into play, right? Because they're all different tools, they're all different perspectives, they're starting points, but they're never foundational. So we need to build something deeper in order to create a life worth living. So, virtue, what is it? From our understanding of virtue, maybe it's from the movies, or it's a concept I think that has been completely ignored, most in the modern world at least, because I haven't seen anyone talk about virtue. It just sounds like a very ancient old practice. Aristotle talked about virtue as an excellence of character. He called it the golden mean, which is like the balance between extremes. Not too much, not too little, not your red pill, not your blue pill, but a median. Potentially a green pill? I don't know. But courage, for example, is the mean between cowardice and recklessness. Justice is the mean between being a pushover and also being tyrannical. Temperance is the mean between self-indulgence and self-denial. So it's never about being perfect, it's about finding balance, making these choices that essentially builds character rather than breaking it down, finding that consistent practice, whether it's day by day, choice by choice, as long as it's being done. And if you are someone who drives towards the religious path, the Bible says a man of character finds favor. It pretty much talks about integrity and about doing what's right when no one's watching, about being the same person in private that you are in public. So without something like that, the Quran also teaches you that the best of you are those with the best character. It emphasizes righteousness, justice, compassion, all of these great virtues that we really should be adopting. Even Buddhism talks about the right action, having the right speech, right livelihood, how you live, how you speak, how you listen, how you work, all reflecting your character. And so it's not a very religious concept by itself, but more so a universal principle. They're about how you show up in the world, how you treat people, how you handle challenges, and how you make decisions. So forget religion for a second, right? If you're someone who's more science-based, you can find online some of the research, but some of the character strengths in various psychological studies have highlighted things like honesty, braveness, kindness, and fairness predict life satisfaction more than external success, more than money, more than status, and more than achievements. That's pretty crazy, because typically we're set on a life where we just completely chase external success, external things, but what does that mean in the dark when you're alone at night and you have to face yourself, your true self, your character, your virtues, and your strengths and weaknesses? Not only that, but you're obviously going to have better relationships, your better mental health because you have more resilience, you're going to handle stress better, you recover from setbacks faster, you have meaningful connections with others because it's real, and you're finding people who also share those similar virtues, or maybe you learn from them to develop your own virtues and stuff like that. It's real. If you think about it, who is it that you trust the most? Who is it that you respect the most? Who is it that you idealize the most? Who do you want to work with? Who do you want to be around? It's never going to be the person who's always angry. It's never going to be the person who's the most cynical or naive. It's going to be the person of character, the person that can essentially hold it down, the person with integrity, and the person that you can count on. And I want to reiterate quickly, because I don't want to say that virtue replaces these different advices that you get online and stuff like that, but it kind of integrates them. It makes them more effective because it teaches you to embody those values of the different advices that you hear online with the pill, black pill, blue pill, or whatever, but essentially upgraded, and not in a very extreme way. So with like red pill, for example, you'd see truth, but you'd also be compassionate because you'd be aware, but you're not really kind of cynical and hopeless. And those virtues can essentially transform you into exactly the goals that you wanted to have. They might help you with navigating complex situations and seeing how is right and also how to get there. So for example, again with Black Pill, you're angry, but instead of using that anger for just, to essentially fix your self-esteem, you're more so using it for positive change to kind of improve yourself, maybe to help others, to fix problems, because it's going to be directed by virtue and your character, and so you can build from that. Same way with Blue Pill, you're maintaining faith whilst facing reality. You see the possibilities, but you're not ignoring the problems, so you can acknowledge setbacks and understand that life isn't very linear and can have a lot of ups and downs. Essentially just not being delusional. So let's talk a little bit about the different kind of core virtues that exist. Again, there are going to be more than these, but I think these are probably the most important as of right now. Courage. This isn't about never being afraid. It's pretty much about facing fear and doing what's right anyway. Taking responsibility when it's hard. Standing up for what you believe in, even if it costs you something. To be honest when it'd be easier to lie. Admitting when you're wrong. It's about trying when you might fail. Someone who dares to think. Then you've got justice. This is kind of about fairness and integrity. So you're pretty much just treating other people with respect even when they don't deserve it, because you can only lead by example. You do the right thing when no one's watching. And again, being that same person in private that you are in public. It's about keeping your word, being honest, and standing up for those who can't stand up for themselves. Then we have temperance. This is more so about self-control, about moderation and balance, and knowing when to push and when to rest. That yin-yang aspect of life, where yang is the sort of action-taking thing, and yin is the very rest and reflect aspect. So, from this you pretty much manage your emotions rather than being controlled by them. Finding that discipline, but also the choices that kind of serve your long-term goals rather than your immediate desires and immediate gratification. Obviously you're going to have some desires that are going to be immediate. It's like why you're on YouTube in the first place, but it's about finding that middle ground, the sort of balance point and the sustainable path. And finally, we have wisdom. This is more so about learning, about reflection, making good decisions, understanding consequences. It's pretty much about seeing the bigger picture outside of yourself in this grand scheme of things. We only live for 80 years or so on average in the history of this planet. That is such a small fraction, it's insane. So it's important to kind of learn from our mistakes beyond our ego and seek knowledge, thinking it before you're acting and considering different perspectives and seeing life in different lenses, making choices that align with your values and goals. And you can pick these different things, and every day you're kind of either building your character or breaking it. And the way to develop all of these virtues, I think, is just to start small. Pick one that makes the most sense to you. Maybe it's courage, maybe it's honesty. Just focus on one and just think about it. Contemplate on it. Ask yourself, what did I do well? Did I show my character in this virtue? Did I make the right choice? What needs work? Just random questions, man. And never force it, because it's just not gonna work when you try to force things. Let information come to you. Alongside that, you could probably read some philosophy or learn online. YouTube is a great source. You're on here now, there's probably great videos in there suggested, or your homepage where you can find stuff that's easily digestible. So whichever way that does it best. For some people it can be movies, even music. A lot of different forms of entertainment have actually a lot of virtue embedded in them through the characters or through the lyrics and the message behind them. So be aware of this stuff and then integrate those kind of things. Your path is unique. Don't follow someone else's script. Don't be someone else. Just follow your foundations. Whatever means the most to you, whichever virtue means the most to you, that's what actually works, and that's what is gonna bring everyone together. Thank you for watching, and peace and blessings be to you all.